Welcome back to our channel History Coins HD. As you that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln penny coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1 today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating stories in American coin history. It's about a tiny copper coin that most people wouldn't think twice about, a 1-cent coin. But this isn't just any penny. We're talking about a rare and highly collectible piece of U.S. coinage, the 1960 Lincoln penny. You may have heard about people finding valuable coins in their pocket change, but this 1-cent coin could be one of the greatest surprises hiding in plain sight. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting your numismatic journey, this story is sure to blow your mind. So stick around, because you might have a small fortune sitting in your coin jar and you don't even know it yet. Let's take a step back into American history. The year is 1960. Dwight D. Eisenhower is finishing his presidency, and John F. Kennedy is about to take office. It's a time of immense change in the United States, politically, culturally, and economically. And during that same year, the U.S. Mint made a quiet change that would go on to confuse collectors, create unexpected varieties, and ultimately produce one of the rarest and most valuable Lincoln cents ever made. The Lincoln cent has been a staple of American currency since 1909, introduced to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. But in 1960, the Mint introduced something unusual, a slight design change, so subtle that most people wouldn't even notice. It all revolved around the size of the date printed on the coin. That's right, just the size of the numerals. Some of the 1960 pennies had what's called a large date and others featured a small date. The differences are tiny, almost invisible to the untrained eye. But to a collector? That's pure gold. This was the first year that both varieties were produced, and it led to an unexpected treasure hunt for collectors everywhere. And now, here's where things get really interesting. Not only were there large date and small date varieties, but some of them were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, while others came from the Denver Mint. Each of these combinations, large date Philly, small date Philly, large date Denver, small date Denver, has different levels of rarity and value. But one version of this coin rises above them all. There exists a legendary 1960 penny that has captivated the coin collecting world, the 1960 small date Lincoln cent from the Philadelphia Mint, in pristine, uncirculated condition. These coins are rare enough on their own, but what makes some of them truly exceptional is when they were accidentally struck with doubled dies, meaning the design was imprinted twice slightly off-center, creating a unique shadow effect. These doubling errors can be seen on the date, the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust." If you happen to own one of these special double die coins in untouched, mint state condition, you could be sitting on something extraordinary. The combination of rarity, error, and condition is what sends collectors into a frenzy. Let's talk about condition for a moment. In coin collecting, condition is everything. A penny found in pocket change that's scratched and worn might be worth only face value. But that same coin, preserved straight from the mint and graded highly, say MS-65 or MS-66 by professional graders, can skyrocket in value. And that's where this humble 1-cent coin starts to become something truly unbelievable. But it's not just about the doubling. Even standard 1960 small date pennies in the highest conditions are becoming harder to find. Why? Because copper pennies were widely circulated, spent daily, and tossed into drawers and piggy banks for years. Most of them have been handled, damaged, or corroded over time. That means a perfect specimen from 1960 is now a rarity, especially one with the small date variety. Now, let's shift gears for a second and think about what it means to find a coin like this. Imagine flipping through an old roll of pennies, maybe from your grandparents' collection, or one you picked up from a flea market or estate sale. You're not expecting anything out of the ordinary. Then boom, you spot a 1960 penny with a small date and no mint mark, and it's nearly flawless. That moment could change everything. For some lucky individuals, it already has. Collectors and dealers have paid jaw-dropping amounts at auction for these rare 1960 Lincoln cents. And as interest in rare coins continues to surge, so too does the value of these tiny time capsules. It's proof that even in the age of digital payments and cryptocurrency, the value of tangible, historical coins is only growing stronger. So, how much could this rare 1960 Lincoln penny actually be worth? You've waited patiently, and here's the number you've been curious about all along. Point 1 of these elusive, Perfectly preserved 1960 small date Lincoln cents featuring a rare die variety and in top grade mint condition has sold for an astonishing $105,000. Yes, you heard that right. A penny. 1 cent sold for more than some people make in a year. That if that doesn't inspire you to start looking through your coin jar, I don't know what will. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most legendary pennies in American coin history, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another rare coin story. We've got more incredible finds, hidden treasures, and collector secrets coming your way. Top 2. Where we uncover the hidden stories and secret fortunes hiding inside everyday pocket change. You know, sometimes it's not about gold bars or pirate treasure, sometimes it's the little things that end up being worth the most. And today, we're talking about one of those little things, a tiny copper coin from 1966 that could make you rethink everything you know about pennies. That's right, today's story is all about a rare and mysterious version of the 1966 Lincoln 1-cent coin. Now, before you say, it's just a penny, stick with me. Because by the end of this video, you might be turning over every coin in your collection, in your change jar, or even on the ground, hoping to spot this small but mighty marvel. Let's rewind the clock to the year 1966. The Beatles were dominating the charts. Gas cost just 32 cents a gallon. And America was in the heart of the space race. But something interesting was also happening at the US Mint. In the mid-1960s, the United States was dealing with a nationwide coin shortage. Believe it or not, coins were disappearing from circulation as people began hoarding silver and older coins, thinking they might someday be worth more than face value. In response, the US Mint made some changes. Big ones. One of the most notable decisions? From 1965 to 1967, the Mint removed all mint marks from coins. That's right, no D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just blank. So if you ever wondered why your 1966 penny doesn't have a mint mark, that's not an error. It's exactly how it was made, but hidden among the millions and millions of 1966 pennies that flooded circulation that year, a few very special ones slipped through the cracks. These aren't just ordinary coins. These are the ones that collectors dream of. The kind that leave experts scratching their heads and auction houses buzzing with excitement. So what makes a 1966 penny so valuable? It comes down to a mix of three magical factors: rarity, condition, and error. First, let's talk rarity. Most 1966 pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, and more than 2.1 billion of them were minted. That's right, billion, with a B. So why would any of them be rare? The answer lies in minting anomalies and preservation. While billions were produced, only a tiny handful survived in flawless, untouched condition. And even fewer came with strange and extremely rare mint errors like off-center strikes, die clashes, or the elusive double die. These kinds of errors turn a common coin into a numismatic superstar. Now let's move on to condition. In coin collecting, condition isn't just important, it's everything. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, with higher numbers indicating better condition. A 1966 penny graded MS60 or MS63 might be worth a few dollars. But a 1966 penny in mint state 67 or higher, with bright red luster and razor-sharp details, is a totally different story. That's the kind of coin that gets slabbed by professional grading companies and displayed like a museum piece. And finally, let's talk about errors. Minting errors are like lightning strikes. They're rare, unpredictable, and absolutely thrilling to find. Imagine spotting a 1966 penny where the letters look doubled, or the rim is uneven, or there's a ghost-like image pressed behind Lincoln's profile. These are the kinds of details collectors go wild for. Each unique flaw adds a new layer of mystery, and more importantly, value. Over the years, coin experts have confirmed the existence of a few extraordinary 1966 Lincoln cents that check every box. These coins are not only in near-perfect condition, but they also feature unique minting errors or varieties that make them true standouts in the world of U.S. currency. One of the most famous finds involved a 1966 penny with an extremely sharp strike, full red coloring, and a faint but clear doubling of the lettering, an example of what collectors call a double die obverse. Combine that with its pristine state and you've got something incredibly rare. Auction houses and private collectors have placed serious bids for coins like this, and the demand continues to rise. Now, let's imagine this: you're sifting through a roll of old pennies. Maybe it's something you picked up at a garage sale, inherited from a family member, or even got from the bank. You're checking the dates, just for fun. Then suddenly, you spot it. A 1966 penny that looks unusually crisp. The color shines. The lettering is bold. The details look just a little different. You do some research, maybe send it off to be graded. And when it comes back, the results are beyond anything you expected, because that little penny in your hand, yes, that tiny copper coin from 1966, could be worth an incredible, life-changing sum of money now, the moment you've been waiting for. One of these ultra-rare 1966 Lincoln cents, with a rare error and in pristine mint state condition, has been known to sell for as much as $98,000. That's right. A coin that most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the street has sold for nearly six figures. So what are you waiting for? Check your drawers. Dig into that old jar of coins sitting in the kitchen. Revisit that dusty coin album from your childhood. Because hidden among the ordinary, you just might find the extraordinary. Top 3. We're unlocking one of the most exciting chapters in American coin collecting. It's about a coin so common at first glance, you'd probably overlook it without a second thought. But hidden in the right condition and with the right details, this coin could be worth a jaw-dropping amount. We're talking about the United States Lincoln 1-cent coin from the year 1967. Now, we all know the humble penny. It's something you toss into tip jars, ignore on sidewalks, or keep in that little compartment in your car. But not all pennies are created equal. Some are diamonds in the rough. And the 1967 Lincoln cent? That one might just be one of the biggest sleepers in coin history. Let's set the scene. America in 1967 was full of tension and transformation. The Vietnam War was in full swing. Civil rights movements were reshaping the nation. And pop culture? It was exploding with energy. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band hit the shelves, and television was entering its golden era. In the middle of this whirlwind, the U.S. Mint was quietly doing something unusual. You see, back in 1965, the country faced a serious coin shortage. People were hoarding silver coins, especially quarters and half dollars, thinking their value might rise. In response, the Mint made a bold decision. From 1965 to 1967, they removed all mint marks from coins. That means whether a coin was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it didn't say. Just a clean, anonymous date, and that brings us to the 1967 Lincoln cent. At first glance, it might seem like just another copper penny. It's got Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the obverse, facing right, with the words "In God We Trust" arched above his head, liberty to the left, and the date 1967 stamped to the right. On the reverse, we see the Lincoln Memorial, with United States of America and E Pluribus Unum above it, and 1 cent boldly declared beneath. But here's the thing, what makes a 1967 penny so incredibly valuable has nothing to do with what's normal. It's about what went wrong. During this period of high-volume production, the Mint was under pressure to churn out coins fast. And when quantity increases, so does the chance for error. That's how a few very special 1967 Lincoln cents were born, with minting mistakes that turned them from ordinary to legendary. Let's talk about these mistakes. Point 1. Of the most coveted errors is known as a double die. This occurs when the coin's design is struck more than once by the die, but slightly offset, creating a ghostly doubling effect, especially noticeable on the date and lettering. A 1967 penny with a double die on the obverse or reverse is extremely rare and extremely valuable. Other errors from this year include off-center strikes, die clashes, struck-through grease errors, and even planchet flaws, where the metal blank used to make the coin had imperfections from the beginning. Any of these rare errors, especially in high-grade condition, can take a regular penny and launch it into the collector's stratosphere. But wait, there's more to the story. Condition is everything. Most 1967 pennies you find in circulation today are dull, scratched, and worn from decades of handling. But once in a while, a coin appears in pristine condition, graded at mint state 65 or higher by professional coin grading services. Combine that condition with a rare error and you're holding a true collector's dream. Imagine this, you're sorting through a forgotten jar of coins at your grandparents' house. You're not expecting much, just the usual mix of nickels, dimes, and copper cents. But then you see it. A 1967 Lincoln penny. At first, it looks normal. But the more you look, the more you notice something different. The design is sharper. The color? Rich red copper. And wait, is that a doubling on the lettering? You do some research, send it off to be graded, and the results come back. You're holding a rare gem, and these coins have been known to shock even the most seasoned collectors. They may be small, but the right one can be worth more than a car, a year's salary, or even a house. Now, here's the part you've all been waiting for. A 1967 Lincoln penny, featuring a rare mint error and preserved in top-tier mint condition, has been valued and sold at an astonishing price of $95,000. That's right. 1 cent, $95,000. It's the kind of story that makes you want to check every coin that passes through your hands. So here's your challenge: start looking. Check your change. Go through those old coin rolls. Explore every drawer and box where coins may have been forgotten. Because who knows? That one little penny could change everything. Top 4. We're talking about the 1976 Lincoln penny now. I know what you're thinking, 1976? That's not that old. And it's just a penny. But trust me, this little copper coin has a lot more going on than meets the eye. In fact, a few of these seemingly common 1-cent coins have been sold for life-changing amounts of money. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for and why. Let's start with the year itself. 1976 was a big deal for the United States. It was the nation's bicentennial year, 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Patriotic celebrations swept across the country. Special editions of the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins were issued to commemorate the event, all featuring bicentennial designs. But interestingly, the penny didn't get a new design in 1976. It stayed the same. Abraham Lincoln on the front. The Lincoln Memorial on the back. No special logos. No updated imagery. At first glance, it looked like business as usual, but here's where things get intriguing. Even though the design didn't change, what happened behind the scenes at the U.S. Mint in 1976 made this year's Lincoln penny stand out in very unusual ways. With over 4 billion Lincoln cents minted that year, you might assume there's nothing rare about them. But that couldn't be further from the truth. When you're dealing with billions of coins, mistakes are bound to happen. And in 1976, some of those mistakes created a handful of Lincoln pennies that would go on to become among the most prized finds in all of coin collecting. Let's talk about what kind of mistakes make a coin valuable. The first and most famous type is a doubled die. This occurs when the die, the metal stamp that imprints the coin's image, presses the design slightly more than once and misaligns. The result is a ghost-like doubling effect on the lettering or date, and when it's noticeable, collectors go wild for it. Some 1976 Lincoln pennies show doubling on "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or even on the digits of the year. If you spot that with the naked eye, it's not your imagination. That could be the key to an incredibly rare variety. Another rare error involves off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned during minting. These coins can be struck as much as 5%, 10%, or even 50% off-center, showing only part of Lincoln's profile or incomplete lettering. The more dramatic the error and the better the condition, the higher the value. And then there are the lesser-known but extremely exciting die breaks, also called cuds. These happen when the die itself cracks or breaks during minting, and the coin ends up with a raised blob or line of extra metal on the surface. These mistakes are like fingerprints. Everyone is different, and collectors love the uniqueness. Now let's talk about the material. In 1976, the penny was still made mostly of copper, 95% copper and 5% zinc. But just a few years later, in 1982, the mint shifted to a cheaper composition of mostly zinc. That makes 1976 one of the last generations of true copper pennies. And because copper has intrinsic value and historical appeal, collectors are paying closer attention to these earlier issues. What really sends the value of a 1976 penny into orbit, though, is a perfect storm: an error, rare condition, and outstanding preservation. That brings us to the topic of coin grading. Coins are professionally graded on a 70-point scale. Anything above a 65 is considered mint state, meaning flawless, uncirculated, and preserved in near-perfect condition. If a 1976 penny with a rare mint error happens to also grade at MS66, MS67, or even higher, the value doesn't just rise, it explodes. So picture this: someone finds a 1976 penny in a collection. It's never been circulated. It's glowing red from rich, original copper luster. And upon closer inspection, it's struck with a visible doubling on the motto, or maybe it's wildly off-center. That's not just a neat find. That's a jackpot, and here's what makes this story even more exciting: it happens. These kinds of finds don't just live in museums. Regular people stumble across them in inherited coin jars, old bankrolls, or even in pocket change. Sometimes, it's a beginner collector. Sometimes, it's someone who almost throws the coin away. But that one little penny turns out to be something truly extraordinary, and now comes the moment you've been waiting for. Just how valuable can a 1976 Lincoln penny be? Well, one of these rare Lincoln cents, struck in 1976, featuring an exceptional mint error and preserved in flawless condition, has sold for an unbelievable price: $88,000. Yes, that's right. One single copper penny. 1 cent sold for $88,000. So before you dismiss that handful of change sitting on your nightstand, or before you cash in that old coin roll at the bank, take a moment. Look closely. Because that small, forgotten penny from 1976 might just be your ticket to a collector's dream. Top 5. We're diving into a truly mysterious and valuable piece of American currency, the 1982 D Lincoln penny. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a penny from the 1980s, something so recent, so ordinary, possibly be worth anything more than 1 cent? And the answer lies in one of the most fascinating transitions in the history of U.S. coinage. The story of the 1982 D penny is one of change, confusion, and, for a few lucky people, discovery. Because among the millions of pennies minted that year, there exists an extremely rare variety, so rare, in fact, that for a long time, even professional numismatists questioned whether it was real. Let's rewind to the early 1980s. At that time, the U.S. Mint was facing a serious issue: the rising cost of copper. Believe it or not, by 1982, it was actually costing the mint more than 1 cent just to make a penny. And as we all know, when the cost of making money gets too high, something's got to change. So in 1982, the U.S. Mint made a major decision. They began phasing out the traditional composition of the penny, 95% copper and 5% zinc, and started producing a new version made of 97.5% zinc, with just a thin layer of copper plating. This change brought the production cost down and ensured the penny could still be made economically. But here's the catch: the transition didn't happen overnight. In fact, both copper and zinc pennies were produced in 1982, which has never happened in a single year before or since. And not only that, there were actually 7 different varieties of the 1982 penny, including small date and large date versions for both metal types, and from both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. It was a chaotic time for coin production, and that's where this story gets really interesting. Among the various combinations of design and metal, one variety was never supposed to exist: a 1982 D small date copper penny. According to official mint records, the Denver Mint only struck zinc small date pennies in 1982. So when a coin surfaced that was clearly a 1982 D small date, but tested as solid copper, the coin world was stunned. Collectors, dealers, and experts began analyzing this anomaly. Was it a fake? Was it a fluke? Or was it a true minting error that slipped through the cracks? After extensive testing, including weight checks, metal composition analysis, and professional grading, it was confirmed. The coin was real. And not just real, but one of a kind. It was the only known example of a 1982 D small date penny struck on a copper planchet. Now, let's pause for a moment and think about how this could have happened. It's believed that during the transition at the Denver Mint, a few copper planchets, maybe leftovers from earlier in the year, accidentally got mixed in with the new zinc ones. The result? A penny that should never have existed. And that kind of mistake is what collectors dream of. The odds of finding a coin like this are astronomically low. Millions and millions of 1982 D pennies were minted, but only a handful were ever struck in the wrong metal. And only one has ever been officially authenticated as a 1982 D small date copper penny. Now, if you're wondering how to tell the difference between copper and zinc pennies from 1982, there's a simple trick: weigh them. A copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams, while a zinc penny is significantly lighter, about 2.5 grams. That tiny difference can mean the difference between a regular penny and a rare treasure. So, imagine this: you're sifting through a box of old coins. You're not expecting anything valuable, maybe just some nostalgia. But then you see a 1982 D penny. You pick it up. It looks normal. But something about it feels different. You weigh it, and it comes in at 3.11 grams, your heart starts racing. You do more research. You send it off for grading. And the results come back. It's the rare 1982 small date copper penny. One of the most elusive coins in modern U.S. history, and now, after all the mystery, the backstory, and the numismatic detective work, it's time for the big reveal point. One of these extraordinary 1982 Lincoln pennies, struck in copper when it should have been zinc, with the rare small date design, has been sold to a private collector for a jaw-dropping $75,000. That's right. A single penny. A 1-cent coin. Worth $75,000, and the most amazing part? That coin didn't come from a museum or a vault. It came from someone just like you, someone curious enough to look twice. So here's the lesson: never underestimate the power of pocket change. Because sometimes, history hides in the smallest, most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most mysterious modern coins, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. We've got tons more stories coming your way about rare coins, valuable errors, and treasures that could be sitting in your own home right now. Until next time, stay curious, keep searching, and happy collecting.